Hi, I'm here again with Todd Whatley to talk. We're talking about estate planning and elder law. Todd, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks
Nice,
for having me.
yeah, nice to see you again. Um, Todd, in this video, we'd like to talk about probate avoidance, and I know that you're a big believer in this. Why is probate avoidance so important?
Yeah, probate, particularly for the elder law client, can be completely avoided and should be avoided. Okay, number one, what is it? Probate is the process of getting something unstuck from a dead person's name. Okay, so if you own assets and they are stuck in your name, there's no co-owner and there's no beneficiary. It's stuck in your name. For us to legally get it unstuck is to go to court, have a judge open up your case, and then decide where everything goes to. And for the older client who doesn't have minor children, meaning children that are under the age of 18, you don't have to go through probate. If you have minor children, you're going to probate so that the judge can decide where those minor children will go live. But most of my clients, as an elder law attorney, they don't have minor children. So therefore, absolutely, we can avoid probate. And if someone without minor children ends up in probate court, somebody messed up. Okay. It is to be avoided because it's expensive, it is time consuming, and it is public knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, that everybody knows probate is, that way madness lies. I think is the best way to describe it. Um, Now, there's something called, you told me about before actually, called beneficiary designation, which can help enormously, I understand.
Sure. Yeah. And for people who come into my office wanting to do estate planning, they may say, I need a will or a trust. Well, number one, you don't want to do a will. That's what tells the judge what to do with stuff as you go through probate. Okay. Having a will does not avoid probate. Please understand that. So the people who come in say, I need a will or trust. Okay. Well, I shouldn't do a will. Then I need a trust, right? Well, let's talk about it. You can avoid probate by making sure nothing is stuck in your name at the time of your death. And by far, the easiest and the most popular way to do that is to make sure that every asset that you have has a beneficiary designation. On your real estate, you can do that with a beneficiary deed. It just simply says, if I own this property at the time of my death, it goes to X, Y, and Z. Okay. That's very easy. It's a deed. Okay. You record it at the courthouse. It's there. As soon as you die, the people listed on that deed have your death certificate. They now own this property. If there's a mortgage, the mortgage goes to those people. The property goes to the people. It's just a beautiful tool. On your bank accounts and investment accounts, it is typically a designation called payable on death for bank accounts and transfer on death for investment accounts. And that is simply paperwork at the bank or the financial institution. You say, hey, I want to make this payable or transfer on death to my 3 kids. They print out some paperwork with those 3 kids' name on it. You sign it, submit it, it's done. At the time of your death, your kids take that death certificate in, the bank looks at it, sees the payable on death designations, they write checks to the kids, and it's over with. No lawyers, no court, no time delay. I mean, it is just an absolute beautiful tool to make sure that you don't have to go through probate. Vehicles are the other thing. There is a form that you can fill out now on a vehicle to say, at my death, this vehicle goes to these people. Or even if you don't do that while you're alive, your kids can do a document after your death to say, this vehicle goes to this person. And so you don't have to go through probate, and it's not an expensive process to avoid probate if you're given that information.
So that really is just a technique to remove things from your estate, really, so that they don't go into probate on your death.
Exactly.
That,
Yes.
that's very good to know. Very good information. Now, the other question I had is these have been in the news recently quite a lot. What is a revocable living trust?
Sure.
Problem
Well,
saying that.
yeah, a trust is another way to avoid probate. It is more complicated. It is more expensive because it's paperwork. But a trust comes into play when that process that I just talked to you, and in my office, when people come in and they want to talk about estate planning, I always bring up what I just talked about: payable on death, transfer on death, beneficiary designations. And that works for probably about 80% of the people. But when someone says, well, hey on Todd, I have concerns that if I just named my son as the payable on death beneficiary, he may be a drug addict, or he's not good with money, or I'm just concerned that this money will not do good things for him. Should I just disinherit him? I'm like, no, 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 no. Then that's what I call a complexity in your estate plan. It's not simple. It just equally goes to the kids. If there are complexities, then you need to do a trust. And if you'll notice, when I said if you need to do a trust, it's not how much you have, it's the complexities of your estate. And so many people, and even attorneys, sadly, will foster the idea that, oh, you've got a lot of stuff, you need to do a trust, or just that everybody needs to do a trust. And I have two real life examples that I can use real quick. So, two couples, 65 years old, let's say. Couple number one, they had worked pretty hard, done well, had this big house, sold the house, put all their money into their accounts, and they were going to travel. They were going to rent and now travel. And they had probably $3 million in their bank accounts. And I said, okay, who do you want to go to? And they said, equally to our two children. I said, do you have any concerns with them getting $1.5 million? And as of today's numbers, and they're like, no, they're happily married, well employed, not drug addicts, perfectly fine. I just want them to get it. And I said, great. Call those financial institutions, do the payable on death beneficiaries to your two kids, and you're done. And they're like, we don't need a trust. I'm like, no, trust is to avoid probate. This plan I just gave you avoids probate and does exactly what you want it to do. And that's honestly how 80% of everyone in our office does it. It's like, that just makes sense to me. Couple number two comes in, mid 60s, $100,000 house, and say $50,000 in the bank. Definitely not rich, not a lot of assets. They also had two children. Child number one, employed, fine, up and going, no problems. But child number two was disabled, okay, and lived with them and would always live with them. And their request was, at our death, we want all of the money to benefit this child, and we want this child to be able to live in our home, but his disability prevents him from paying bills, managing a checkbook, doing anything. His brother will manage that, but we want it to legally say this special needs son can live in this house and the bills get paid, and this disabled child is probably going to die first. At his death, we want everything to go to the other brother. And I was like, that's a complexity, okay? That is a complexity that payable on death doesn't accommodate, and so therefore they needed a trust. A very modest family, $100,000 house, $50,000 in the bank, very modest. But because of what they wanted to do, they needed a trust. The only way I could solve that was with a trust. Whereas the other couple, 3 million or 10 times the money, 30 million. It doesn't matter if you want it to equally go to your children and you have no concerns about the children getting that, the payable on death works. But if there are complexities, then we need to do a revocable living trust, which can own the property. And you can put terms in the trust to do exactly what that second family wanted to do, to hold the money for his benefit, but then eventually go somewhere else.
That's really interesting and kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? You would think
Yes,
it's
it is.
the other way
Yeah,
around.
very much.
Very interesting. Okay, Todd, thanks again. Once again, really, really clear, useful examples of
Thank you.
how these things can be used, and how to avoid probate, which is very, very important. We'll see you in the next video.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers. Bye bye.